Things have been going fairly good for DC on film for a while now. 1 year ago, Aquaman crossed the billion-dollar threshold. While it does have its fans, Shazam did fairly middling numbers at the box office, but Joker more than made up for that. It is fast approaching the billion-dollar threshold, and it did so with an R rating, without China, and on a comparatively low budget, which makes it just about the most profitable comic book movie of all time. It really looked like things might have turned around for DC, but they must have used up their good luck quota for a while, because last week, rumors started making the rounds that Wonder Woman 1984 is shaping up to be a disaster. In this editorial, I will first go through what the test screening leaks are saying, before comparing and contrasting that with the similar rumors of production trouble that surrounded the previous Wonder Woman movie. And finally, how I think these rather troubling news might be received by the powers that be at Warner. If you find the content of this video to be to your liking, then please leave a like, hit subscribe, and please make sure to indicate you want notifications on all videos. We really appreciate all of our existing subscribers, and I hate to ask you more, but please check that you are still subscribed and that you too have indicated that you want notifications on all videos. And with that out of the way, let's dive in. On occasion, members of the public who have attended any given test screening may leak what they saw online. And more often than not when this happens, these reports are indicative of what the final release version of the movie is like. Such reports are often leaked by way of Reddit, and that's what happened in this case too. However, the original post was apparently removed due to a copyright notice, but not before Cosmic Book News copied and summarized it for further dissemination. So, what did they say? They begin by establishing that Warner is reported to have held 2 test screenings for Wonder Woman 1984. One back in June that is said to have been well received, but spoilers for one reportedly held in October offer what, to them, sounds like a complete disaster. No detailed breakdown of the story is offered, but the worst bits are summarized, and I'll re-summarize them here, so beware of spoilers. The central MacGuffin of the story appears to be some kind of magic rock that grants wishes, but these wishes come with monkey paw-like horrific side effects. To those of you who might not be aware, The Monkey's Paw is a supernatural short story by author W. Jacobs that has been adapted to film several times and ripped off many more times. In this story, whoever holds the paw is granted whatever they wish for, but in so cruel, twisted, and ironic ways that they ultimately were much better off before. Anyway, this magic rock is what gives Pedro Pascal's MacLeod his powers, which enables him to grant wishes to other people. And it is these wishes that come with the horrific monkey paw side effects. Although it would appear that granting such wishes is what powers MacLeod. Wonder Woman accidentally wishes for Steve Trevor to come back to life. However, per the monkey paw side effect, Steve Trevor is reincarnated in some other man's body, with only Diana able to see him. The wish also causes Wonder Woman to lose some of her powers, to the point where she is vulnerable to bullets and knives. She also loses her powers of flight and has to use a jet. But she does have the power to make this invisible, and she can shoot lightning bolts from her lasso. MacLeod's plan is to hijack a satellite, and then somehow make everyone make a wish, which would make him super powerful. His plan is foiled though, to such an extent that he wishes he never had the rock. And with that, everything is undone. The events of the movie never happened, as if it were all a dream. Wonder Woman still hooks up with the guy Trevor used to be reincarnated in though. Now, do you think that sounded a bit incomplete and a tad rambling with things taken out of context? If you did, then good, because that's exactly what it was. There are 2 kinds of such leaks that I like, because I find they are useful in determining how extensive a movie's problems are, and subsequently, if all hope is lost, or if a good movie may yet result from it. These are the leaks that either point to specific structural problems with the movie's editing and narrative flow, or leaks that break down the movie's story beat for beat. In the case of the previous Wonder Woman movie, we got both. There, we first learned the movie was having trouble in an open letter from disillusioned Warner staff to Kevin Tsujihara, before learning that the feedback from test screenings was that the movie was discombobulated, i.e., there were structural problems with the movie's narrative flow. Instead of coming across like one immersive experience, the first cuts came across like a bunch of random scenes strung together with little connective tissue between them. However, it was always emphasized that these problems were fixable with editing. Months and a round of reshoots later, the story itself leaked in a later test screening. By then, there were no further mention of any structural issues, only complaints about the actual story points, meaning they had succeeded in ironing out the editing issues. As we all know, the movie went on to be a smash hit. So that was the previous movie, and it had the two kinds of leaks that I like. In this case, there is none of that. This leak for Wonder Woman 1984 doesn't say anything about any editing issues, so I can only assume there aren't any. And it also doesn't break down the story beat for beat, which would give us at the very least a chance to assess the story for ourselves. What this leak provides us with is one leaker's highly subjective opinion of what they did not like, using negatively charged phrasing. I admit that it doesn't sound too good at face value, but is that indicative of the charged language used, or that the movie itself doesn't work? We can't say, because we haven't got the context necessary to make that call for ourselves. Nor do we know the expectations or preferences of the one providing us with these subjective evaluations. It could be that what this leaker hates, another fan loves. How vital you consider the invisible jet to be to Wonder Woman lore may even factor into that equation. Keep in mind, there was another test screening as well, and that presumably went fine. Did the movie change that much from one screening to the other, or did this one leaker just not like it? But for the sake of argument, let's for the moment, and for the sake of discussion, assume that upon release, the general audience will agree with this leaker's assessment that Wonder Woman 1984 is a disaster. Then what? As we've covered in a few videos now, the past troubles DC movies have had on screen have all resulted in management changes behind the scenes. The entire initial direction for DC on film was decided by Zack Snyder and his associates, and they were the ones who cast everyone hailing from that era. Case in point, Zack Snyder was the one who cast both Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman and Jason Momoa as Aquaman. However, the Zack Snyder regime came to an end in the aftermath of Batman v Superman. He was replaced by Jeff Johns and Peter Berg, who oversaw the retooling of Justice League, and who greenlit Aquaman, Shazam, and Wonder Woman 1984. That's all they had the chance to greenlight before Justice League was released and bombed in a spectacular fashion. Johns and Berg were blamed for that failure and fired for it, which meant the end of their regime. They were in turn replaced by Walter Hamada, whose regime is the current one behind the scenes of DC on film. If Wonder Woman 1984 were to bomb with viewers and therefore at the box office, then Warner's corporate overlords would turn to Walter Hamada, the man in charge of DC on film, and ask, how could this happen? Who is responsible? But then Hamada would simply point at Johns and Berg and say, they did it, and you already fired them. Then he could point out that he was the one who greenlit the immensely successful Joker, to which the corporate overlords would then say, oh yeah, carry on then. What I'm getting at here is that everyone at the corporate level who had a hand in making this movie, and the one before it for that matter, are already gone. In the hypothetical event that it should underperform or otherwise disappoint, it won't have any repercussions to speak of for anyone now calling the shots behind the scenes. The only thing that would happen is that the current regime would have no financial reason to move forward with the franchise they inherited from a previous regime, meaning one more vestige of the Zack Snyder regime would be gone. Honestly, I don't think Walter Hamada would shed any tears if Wonder Woman 1984 were to bomb. That would only mean more resources to put into projects that he could take full credit for. And if Wonder Woman 84 should turn out to be another hit, great, then Hamada can bask in the glory of the previous regime's decision-making, like he could in the case of Aquaman, and carry on the success by greenlighting another. No matter what gets leaked about Wonder Woman 84, Hamada is probably much more worried about Birds of Prey, because he's the one who greenlit that. Over the horizon, though, still looms J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot. After leaving their mark on both Star Trek and Star Wars, Warner, and in all likelihood DC, is next. What will their incursion mean to the Hamada regime and his plans? That we do not yet know, but we will keep you up to date as we find out. Till then, let me know your thoughts on the Wonder Woman 84 leaks and how excited you are for it in the comments.